The Freedom of Information Act is supposed to be a tool we can use to access information.
The Freedom of Information Act, which is commonly known as the Foia, is a law that gives you the right to access information from the federal government. It's often described as a law that keeps citizens in the know about what their government is doing. Under the Foia, agencies must release any information that is requested unless that information is protected from disclosure by law.
That may sound great, but sometimes it just doesn't work that way.
As Congress, the President, and the Supreme Court have all recognized, the Foia is a vital part of our democracy.
The men and women who work processing requests are supposed to be on the side of transparency. That is, supposed to be. I just caught them celebrating when I lost an attempt to access information. Information that I had pretty good reason to believe existed, but they said it did not. Stay tuned. You're about to take a quick journey inside the Black Vault with a quick blast. That's right, everybody. As always, thank you so much for taking this journey inside the Black Vault with me. It is a quick one, a quick blast, and I was going to write this up as an article. I just went ahead and decided to do this. That way I can at least better show you, visualize, and explain exactly what went down. Now, some of you may think, a couple different things, and I'm going to tackle those ideas in a moment. But a couple of you might think that this is not a big deal, and let me assure you, it absolutely is. Now, what I didn't tell you in the introduction is the actual topic of what I was going after and what I was requesting and what I was looking into. And that is the 2004 Nimitz UFO encounter video. Now, we all know this as FLIR 1. I've spoken about it quite a bit on this very YouTube channel, on my radio show, on interviews, and obviously away from me blabbing about it, you guys have heard a lot about it in the media. Now, in short, this was the 2004 USS Nimitz encounter and the video that has surfaced more popularly since 2017, December. However, what many people have not really realized, or at least they don't talk about, that video has been online since 2007. Now, I want to go ahead and visualize a little bit, or visualize this for you guys a little bit, because this is essentially what I was going after, and that was an investigation into the leak of that 2007 appearance of the video. Again, 2004 it happened. 2007 it wound up on abovetopsecret.com. Now, I've already written an article about this, broke down exactly all of the information. If you guys are curious, definitely check below right after you click that like, thumbs up, and subscribe to this channel. Click on the link below. You'll be able to break down, see what I did to break down the leak in 2007. Now, I'm going to fast forward to last year and one of the statements that I got from the U.S. Navy. Now, this surrounds when I got them to admit that not only that video, but also two other ones that have surfaced are, in fact, UAPs, or unidentified aerial phenomena. Now, one of those statements that I did get was this. With respect to the 2004 sighting by aircraft from the aircraft carrier USS Nimitz, that video was widely shared throughout the ship at the time. In 2007, one of those crew members posted the video onto the public web. In 2009, the online post of the video came to the attention of Navy officials who, in consultation with Navy law enforcement personnel, decided not to pursue the matter. Given the time since recording, approximately 5 years, the widespread distribution of the recording within the ship at the time of the recording, and the size of the crew at the time, approximately 5,000, it was determined that there was no way to accurately determine who might have released the video. That came from Joseph Gradisher, who was the spokesperson for the Deputy Chief of Naval Operations for Information Warfare. Now, this is what's interesting here, because the Navy obviously admitted, yes, we took this seriously, yes, we looked into it, and we realized there's 5,000 suspects, we let it go. But that means that there's an investigation of some kind. That's the key to any Freedom of Information Act request. The moment you have something in writing, The moment you can refer to something, there's a paper trail. And sometimes that paper trail may give you something pretty darn interesting. Now, the original FOIA request, for all my FOIA people out there, I just want to go over this really quick with you, just so you know exactly what I requested, and use this. This works very, very well when you use a Freedom of Information Act, essentially a template. Start looking for a broad range of documents pertaining to whatever you're looking for. And if you get pushback from the agency, you can always amend it. But the more you stipulate, the better. Because they may not know that you were looking for emails, and they may conveniently say, well, you said documents, and maybe they don't consider that a document. Yes, sometimes they get that silly. So it's better to err on the side of caution. Spell it all out. All documents, reports, memos, letters, emails, etc. that pertain to the circa 2009 investigation by NCIS into a 2007 leak of a Navy video depicting unidentified aerial phenomena, or UAP. The footage was shot in 2004 while the Nimitz Carrier Strike Group was on a training mission off the coast of San Diego. Based on recent statements from the U.S. Navy to myself, I'm aware that there was an investigation of some kind into the leak. Now, NCIS is the Navy Criminal Investigative Service. That is who I sent this FOIA to. Even though the statement did not say NCIS, although I can't name it, I did get a secondary source that pretty much confirmed that is where the investigation took place. Reliable enough to at least try. I mean, I wouldn't go to my death with it, but I would say that whenever you hear something, you may think something is true. It doesn't hurt to file the FOIA. The worst they can do is give you a no records response, which is exactly what they did. Here is the original FOIA request. Anybody can check these FOIA numbers. They're on the website. I was accused after I posted the document that I faked it, and, well, I didn't. Anybody can verify this. As I said, these are the original letters. I always get a kick out of that, though, when people accuse me of faking something. Regardless, we conducted a search of the NCIS Knowledge Network database. That's called KNET. KNET identifies investigative reports created and transmitted by NCIS. A search of KNET using the information provided in your request did not identify any records responsive to your request. In other words, they're giving me a no records response. So I appealed it. I appealed it based on the fact that the U.S. Navy spokesperson on this particular topic, Joseph Gradisher, said that there was an investigation of some kind. I had a secondary source that said, yeah, it was through NCIS. Because that leak of sensitive information, I learned later that it was considered unclassified, but it can still be sensitive. It doesn't mean you could just plop it onto the internet, onto an internet forum. So it was NCIS that looked into it. Since I filed this request in September of 2019, I do have additional information that I am pursuing through different offices in the Navy. So this may not make sense for what we know now in January of 2020 when I'm recording this, but at the time, I had firm reason to believe that the information was there. So I had appealed it. And I won't go through the text of the appeal, but I essentially just referenced that statement that I've already read to you, put up a legal case in the appeal document. Now, this you'll see is from the Department of the Navy's Office of the Judge Advocate General. They're the ones now away from NCIS, which will process the FOIA appeal. And they will look at everything that NCIS did, everything that I had submitted, and they will make a determination. They denied my appeal. All right, now that's not uncommon. Again, quick note to my FOIA people out there, always appeal, period. That's it. That's my biggest advice. For years, I never did because I did not have the confidence enough to think that I would get somewhere. And even though I still lack that confidence, at least I know to take that step because honestly, it is something I highly recommend because you get places. This is a failure, so this is a bad example, but always appeal. You never know what happens, and I do have quite a few success stories. Even saw one on the day that I recorded this where somebody had appealed, and to their surprise, the National Security Agency accepted the appeal and they're reconsidering. So again, always appeal. Well, I lost this one. And so here's another very cool tool that I would recommend you guys use. Don't do it every time if you request a lot because it becomes a lot of work for them. But in a case like this, where I truly felt that there was internal documentation, now that the FOIA request was processed and denied, the appeal was processed and denied, you can file another request for all documents pertaining to that Freedom of Information Act request and the appeal. Include emails, documents, list it all out. And that's exactly what I did. You get a new FOIA case number, and they go in and they look internally for that information that you requested. And again, I specifically look at emails. It's 2020. It's the 21st century. That's primarily how they communicate. So you always want to stipulate that that's really what you're looking for, and then they'll hopefully give it to you. And that's where this popped up. This was one of those emails. Now, I will say, of the millions of pages that I have received, it's very rare when you get something pinked out instead of blacked out. Maybe that's why somebody thought I faked this, but this is the actual document. You'll notice when I first posted it, I blurred those FOIA numbers. I did that for a couple different reasons, but mostly because I just wanted to make this video first before I start announcing FOIA case numbers. I can't tell you how many people start making phone calls and they'll say, okay, FOIA case number XYZ, can you give me the responsive documents? And sometimes they get somewhere. So I wanted to just kind of hold on to those case numbers for a day or two while I produce this video for you guys and explained a little bit, including the agency itself. But this is exactly what I got. Now, this was one of quite a few different pages. The quite a few other different pages really didn't say much, so I'm not going to bore you with them. You're more than welcome to look at them. However, I do post everything, so they are available on theblackvault.com. But you'll see here that, go backwards here, read from the bottom up. On the 15th, the NCIS FOIA from someone in the Navy, obviously that was probably the person that processed my appeal, sent NCIS the final response that they were giving me when the appeal was denied. And they were, it was sent to NCIS. So you'll see this. Let me see if I can get a mouse here. So whomever this person was, obviously remains a mystery, but probably from that Navy office that processed my appeal, they sent their denial of the appeal to NCIS, so everybody got it. Somebody over there, again, pinked out, which I get a kick out of. They won't name it, but pinked out. NCIS, the FOIA office, sent it to somebody else. Still don't know who knows who that is, celebrating that I lost the appeal. Now, that, again, may seem like, well, who cares? You're really annoying. Well, you're right on that. I probably am annoying, but let me make a very interesting point here that many people that are saying, hey, John, they probably just hate you and so on. I checked, and in my Freedom of Information Act database that I do internally, I have a full software database. I have filed close to 10,000 FOIA requests in about 23 years. However, I didn't start the database until I forget what year. But that said, there's about 7,000 cases in there. I searched everything that's in there. And from 2014 to date, I've only done 25 FOIA requests to NCIS. That's not a lot at all. That shouldn't make anybody upset. And the number of appeals, I can count on one hand. And so over the course of the last 6 years. And so my point here is to put to bed that I'm just annoying this office so much. I also very rarely follow up and annoy them when they take a long time, because I've learned they take a very long time. So it really doesn't serve any purpose other than annoying them to just say, hey, what's the status of this request? Hey, what's the status of this request? I do periodically when it reaches an insane amount of time. But I didn't hear. So I feel strongly that I didn't annoy anybody over there, nor do I have a high request volume for NCIS. So for them to cheer, what are they cheering? They should feel confident that they looked for records pertaining to my request, and they came up with nothing. And so when they got their appeal granted, it shouldn't be a celebration. It should just be, okay, that case is closed, let's move on. Now, some people may defend that they just don't want to deal with this, and that's fine. That is their job, however. And I think that that's what also people are missing. These are not, in some cases, you know what, let me correct myself. In some cases, this is not necessarily true. But these are Freedom of Information Act officers. Whether or not they were assigned there, or whether or not they requested to be there, or whatever the case may be, they are there. And our taxpayer money is going to support our right to access that information. So for me, it's like they're playing a game here. Not that we didn't already know that, but it's in black and white that they're celebrating the fact that I believe that there's documents there. I just do, based on a couple different things, but I can't do anything else at this point except sue them, and I can't do that. So that being said, they're celebrating that lack of transparency. I played a couple clips for you. That was the former director of the Department of Justice Office of Information Policy, I believe it is, OIP. And even though that's Department of Justice, I mean, that really is kind of a federal-wide viewing, that they're supposed to err on the side of transparency, that they are supposed to, when possible, be transparent with people like you and me. So if they're celebrating internally, like people about people like me losing, that's not really a good sign. Add in that they are talking about something that just made headlines, that the Navy has internal videos and a PowerPoint presentation with slides that is considered top secret and secret on this very topic. Are they lying? And I think that that's what we have to really consider. How much are they really holding true to what they're supposed to do with the Freedom of Information Act? I can't answer that. All I can do is continue to shed light on stuff like this that shows this is a us versus them. I don't want it to be, but this is an us versus them scenario where they cheer when we lose. Let me show you another quick document here before I close out. This was found by Jason Leopold. He is a great investigative journalist. Right now he's working for BuzzFeed, he does a lot of Foia work. I mean, he's one of the very few that I highly respect in this field. Obviously, we have crossed paths quite a bit because of what we do and do very much along the lines of the same thing. But he is incredibly good at what he does. He is incredibly successful with it, and obviously writing international headlines based on the work that he does. Now, this was one of his Foia requests that he was able to uncover, doing the exact same thing that I just explained to you. Take your Foia numbers, appeal numbers, and file a Foia for everything pertaining to those numbers. And you get all the internal communications and so on. And what Jason found out was they were essentially making fun of Jason, myself, and one other Freedom of Information Act requester, because we were actually going after all of the same or similar related material that was through this particular office. And what's funny is that they started going back and forth with jokes about, you could see here, Greenwald must know Leopold as well. Well, I do know Jason, but we do not 100% coordinate our Foia requests. So they were starting to make that assumption that that's what we were doing. And then all of a sudden, another one chimes in from the Department of Justice saying it's a Foia posse, that I, Jason, and one other person were in this posse. And then on top of that, they were, that we should form a band, and that was our name, the Foia posse. Now, all of that is silly, right? But you can kind of see that there is a lack of caring for what the Foia officers are doing. This is our right. This is what we are able to do as citizens of the world, because you don't have to be a U.S. citizen only to do this and use the Foia, that they're making too light of it, in my opinion. So what it all means, who knows? You know me. I throw those documents out there, let you determine. I try and translate where and when I can, but that's not always possible. As always, a lot of times, I'm just guessing like everyone else. Anyway, that is this journey inside the Black Vault. For the Quick Blast, we'll see you next time.